Hello, writers, and welcome back to the Well Storied podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. My name is Kristen Kiefer, and this podcast is where I transform articles from the Well Storied blog into audio so you can listen in on the go. I have a touch of a scratchy voice today, so please forgive me if the microphone is picking up on that. But yes, today it is Monday, and we are diving back into the blog archives, as we typically do on Mondays, to cover an old article from the blog that I think really deserves its chance to shine here on the podcast. And so today, as you probably have noticed, we are covering our article on mentors. Specifically, this article is called How to Craft a Memorable Mentor for Your Story, and if you'd like to read along as you listen in today, you can head on over to well-storied.com/mentor. I will also leave that link for you in today's episode description. Now let's get started. How to craft a memorable mentor for your story. We can probably all think of a few memorable mentor characters. There's Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Professor X from the X-Men comics, and Haymitch and Effie Trinket from the Hunger Games, among countless others who stayed with us long after we've closed the pages of our favorite books. Crafting our own memorable mentors who find homes in the hearts of our readers, however, is often easier said than done. Fortunately, with a little time and intention, anything is possible. So let's get to work, shall we? First up, we need to ask the following question. Should you include a mentor in your story? To craft memorable mentors, we first need to address whether including a memorable mentor in your cast serves a purpose. It's all about intention, right? A mentor or a guardian is a character specifically designed to prepare the protagonist for the mental, physical, or emotional hurdles they'll face in their journey to overcome an inner conflict and/or achieve their story goal. Despite the popular examples we've already listed, mentors aren't limited to fantasy and science fiction stories. Take, for example, the character of Nigel in The Devil Wears Prada, or M, the head of MI6 in the James Bond novels. See, no lengthy beard or wizard's staff necessary. Does your story need a character to fulfill the role of mentor? If you're unsure, consider your protagonist. What is the lie that your protagonist believes? Do they have an established story goal? What will it take for them to overcome that lie and/or achieve that goal? If your protagonist doesn't already have the knowledge, skills, or determination needed to complete their arc, providing them with a mentor can be a great way to keep your story moving forward. If you aren't sure what the lie that your character believes is, or whether or not they have an established story goal, make sure to head on over to today's transcript at well-storied.com/mentor to check out the links that I've included to helpful articles on both of those topics. Now, let's talk about my top 2 tips for crafting memorable mentors. Cobbling together a quick character who can inform and inspire your protagonist won't ensure that your mentor finds a home in the hearts of readers. To make them truly memorable, here are 2 tips you should absolutely keep in mind as you work to craft your story's mentor. Tip number 1, give them autonomy. If the only thing your readers know about your mentor is that they provide the protagonist with a little insight or inspiration, your mentor is going to fall flat. As with any secondary character, your mentor deserves a life outside of the protagonist's story. But just how much should you develop the mentor before writing? And how can you craft a mentor that feels rich and compelling on the page without distracting from the main storyline? I'd recommend checking out the tips from our previous podcast episode on crafting spectacular secondary characters. That is the episode directly before this one, so make sure to check that out. And on to tip number 2, give them purpose. Every element in your story must serve a purpose. That's a statement I've often made in the past, and it's one I'll continue saying for many years to come. If your mentor character doesn't serve a strong purpose within the framework of your story, and preferably several, they'll only add unnecessary fluff that weighs your story down. But just what purposes can your mentor serve? Let's discuss. Here are 8 ways your mentor can pull their weight. Mentor characters don't always appear frequently in stories, but when they do, they should pull their weight by adding irreplaceable value to the protagonist's journey. How so? Here are 8 easy purposes your mentor can fill today. Purpose number 1, they can share a little wisdom. Making mistakes is a hallmark of any hero's journey. Fortunately for your protagonist, it's likely their mentor has been in their shoes before and can offer a little wisdom to help them better navigate their struggles. Number 2, they can save the day. Your protagonist will likely find themselves in a tough situation more than once throughout your story. To give them the tools they need to overcome, a mentor can lead by example, helping your protagonist out of a bind early in your story's plot. One thing to note, however, is that you should try to avoid using this technique later in your story. A mentor should never serve as a deus ex machina at the story's climax, saving your protagonist from a situation they can't get out of themselves. That would really spoil the climax, wouldn't it? On to tip number 3, or purpose number 3. They can prove the villain's evil. To showcase the consequences of the villain's abilities and desires, a mentor can serve as a story's sacrificial lamb, prompting the protagonist to actively engage in overcoming the villain. Purpose number 4, they can serve as a role model. Whether your protagonist finds themselves a fish out of water or in desperate need of a little maturity, a mentor can teach the protagonist how to better acclimate to the life they'd like or need to live. Number 5, they can guide the way. If your protagonist finds themselves on new terrain, who better to serve as a physical guide than one with knowledge and experience of the landscape? Allow your mentor to lead the way. Purpose number 6, they can teach the hero new skills. Whether it be a physical skill or a new body of knowledge, let your story's mentor be the one to teach the protagonist exactly what they need to know to keep moving forward. On to purpose number 7, they can dish out some humility. Your protagonist will win some and lose some, but a little early success can poison their perspective. Fortunately, a mentor can pop your protagonist's bubble and put them in the proper mindset to tackle any obstacles to come in their journey. And finally, purpose number 8, they can provide some healthy encouragement. With wisdom and experience on their side, a mentor can offer the kind of grounded encouragement that has the power to push through your protagonist's mental roadblocks and set them back on the path to success. When crafting a mentor of your own, ensure that their value to the story is irreplaceable. If you can remove the mentor with little to no consequence, it's time to reconsider the purpose they serve within the context of your plot. That said, your mentor certainly doesn't have to serve every purpose we've listed here today. Fulfilling just 1 or 2 purposes well will always make a mentor more memorable than one that ill-advisedly attempts to go above and beyond. Remember, when crafting your story's mentor, or indeed any element of your story, intention is key. Show up, put in the work, and watch your story's mentor shine. Writers, I hope you found some good tips and tricks here today to help you craft memorable mentors for your own stories. I think many of our stories do feature mentor characters, and yet mentors tend to be one of the types of secondary characters that really doesn't show up that often. This is, of course, a story-by-story basis, and some stories heavily feature their mentors. However, lots of times I feel that mentors show up towards the beginning of a protagonist's journey to kind of push them on their way and then never appear again. Sometimes this is necessary, and so that's completely okay, but I think we really need to take time to develop our mentors well and make sure that they show up as real and whole, complete, rich, complex characters on the page, even if they're there only for a scene or 2. So do take the time to develop your story's mentor and really allow them to shine, no matter how much screen time they get, how much page time they get. So yes, writers, thank you so much for listening in today. If you enjoyed today's episode, as always, do give it a like, subscribe, leave a rating or a review, whatever you can do from wherever you are listening in from. All of it goes a long way toward helping the podcast grow. Also, if you'd like to help support the podcast, you guys know that I have a Patreon for this thing, really for all of Well Storied. If you would like to pledge as little as just $1 a month, you not only help the podcast grow and help cover all the expenses involved in creating free resources for Well Storied as a whole, but you gain access to some pretty awesome posts that I write up for my patrons over on Patreon. That includes some behind-the-scenes looks at Well Storied, behind-the-scenes looks at my own fiction writing and reading and just kind of my creative lifestyle, and also I have just begun to share some fun snippets from my own fiction writing there as well, which I think is pretty fun. So if you'd like to check those out and support Well Storied while you're at it, make sure to head on over to patreon.com/wellstoried. I will leave the link for that in today's episode description for you as well. And so that is it today, friends. That is all I have for you. As always, thank you so much for listening in, and I cannot wait to see you guys next time. Happy writing!